Hello there, dear viewer, and welcome to haQ attaQ. My name is Jakob. I'm your host, and you're watching a haQ attaQ episode. So here we have 7 different Shimmer Reverb plugins. And yeah, I was actually quite surprised over how different they do sound when compared to one another. Now there's gonna be a lot of sound examples in this video, of course. And regarding the sounds, there was one type of sound that I was looking for that I could use to compare all of these Shimmer Reverbs. So I reached out to a friend in the guitar community here on YouTube, and he was happy to help, so...
Hello everybody, I'm Andy Ferris, also known as TheGuitarGeek on YouTube, and I played guitar on this video. This is the guitar I used. It's the Fender 66, and I used the 4th position, so these 2 tele pickups in parallel, recorded straight into the DI of my Audient ID44 with Logic on my Mac. I hope that's enough geeky information for you. If you want more geeky information, then come check me out on my social media channels. I will see you there, and thanks Jakob for having me.
Now, Andy is doing a lot of great stuff for the guitar community, so if you are a guitar nerd, if you're into guitar cabinets and pedals, well, he's got loads of great content. So you'll be able to find his link in the description box down below and also in a pinned comment in the comment section.
Let's get this thing open. X time!
Okay, so I'm gonna introduce each and every one of these Shimmer Reverb plugins by order of release dates. And so first up is Crystaline by Holderness Media. Now this one is the oldest one of the bunch, of course, and was released back in May 2014. And this one was, for a long time, 5 years almost, the only Shimmer Reverb you could get on iOS. Crystaline has that classical Shimmer Reverb sound to it right out of the box. But it can, of course, do some really weird stuff once you get into actually tweaking the engine in here. And, of course, when you start using the XY pads, well, some really weird stuff starts happening. Now, one thing I need to highlight here is that this one does exist both for iPad and iPhone, but the iPhone version you have to buy separately. So it's not like you get both when you buy one. Now, Crystaline has a very pleasant sound to it, to my ears at least, and it doesn't sound too metallic. There are some reverbs in here that have more of a metallic sound, and then there are reverbs that gives you the ability to actually modulate the reverb tail, which also helps with the metallic sound not sounding too metallic. Well, Crystaline does not have any such options. There are no LFOs in here, nothing like that. And so it's a bit lacking on that side, but it already has quite a pleasant sound to it. Now, Crystaline, being released back in 2014, is an older app, of course, and back then the vision for apps were a bit different because we didn't have any plugin format like we do today with audio unit extensions or AUv3. So Crystaline was built as a performance app with 4 large XY pads on the first page, and as you can see, we have the preset list available at all times right there. Now there is so much more I could say about Crystaline, but I've got 6 more reverbs here to show you, so we're gonna move on to the next one, which is Shimmer AUv3 audio plugin. Now this one is from 4Pockets and it was released back in February 2019, almost 5 years after Crystaline. Now this Shimmer Reverb I would tag with words like ambient, atmospheric, dreamlike. It's able to produce very long reverb tails, and it also has a really good modulation section that is, well, it's quite intricate. You can do a lot with it. In fact, you can do a lot with everything in here because there are several controls for several things spread out over several pages. Now, even though this is an audio unit plugin, this has been built with some sort of performance in mind because the developer has implemented some XY pads here, and they're all controlling stuff from the various sections, everything from the reverb to the pitch shifter itself. So you can get really experimental with this one. Well, I do think that this thing can sound a little bit metallic when you're playing highly pitched sounds through it, especially sounds with hard transients, like bell sounds. It's basically why I chose to use this sound for my demos, because it's easy to hear what happens in a Shimmer Reverb when you're using sounds like that. Well, either way, what I like about this Shimmer Reverb is that you only need a pitch module and a reverb and a feedback loop, having the output of all of that being fed back into itself again in order to create a shimmer effect. Well, when it comes to this plugin, the developer has really gone all in and added more stuff, like a modulation effect where you can actually sync it to the host and get some pumping sounds for your reverb tail. Now, on top of all of that, you also have something called a sustainer that can be used when you're making reverbs with long tails. Experiment with that one, seriously. In the end, all I can say is that I highly recommend this plugin because it's a real keeper. Now I'm gonna go and get some tea because my throat is giving up on me. Next up is Stellr by Georgi Georgiev, and I'm probably butchering that name because I'm Swedish speaking bad English. Now this one was released back in April 2019, and I'd say that this one has such a distinct sound. Nothing else sounds like this one, or this one doesn't sound like any one of the other Shimmer reverbs on this list. Remember me talking about metallic sounding shimmer reverbs? Well, here's one that sounds extremely metallic, and it's kind of impossible to get it to sound in any other way. I did not like this one bit in the beginning. I've started to take a liking to it because I've been experimenting with other sounds, but I'm still gonna use the same sounds I've already been using throughout this video to play audio demos for you so you can hear what I'm talking about. Now this thing does have a modulation section, but it doesn't help with the metallic sound. And I'd also want to add that out of all of these reverbs, this is the one that has the smallest, shortest reverb tail. Even with the large hall selected, it doesn't become this big dreamy thing. Now, a shimmer reverb with this type of character to it, I would only recommend to people who already have a lot of shimmer reverbs and want something different, something they can experiment with, something that doesn't sound like anything else. Because if you're looking for a more classical sounding shimmer reverb, I would recommend you get any of the other reverbs on this list. But if you want to get into experimentation and really do get something with a very different, unique character to it, then Stellr is definitely for you. I actually don't have that much more to say about Stellr, so we're gonna move on to the next one, which is TB Reverb by Tone Boosters. And this one packs a whole lot of power. Yes, TB Reverb is more than just a reverb. It is a shimmer reverb in disguise. It doesn't have shimmer in its name, but it's there. It's just that it's off in its initial state, so you have to turn it on if you want this thing to start shimmering. And you'll find the settings for that in the Shimmer page. Just a highlight here though, this thing has 3 modes. So it's got disabled, forward, and feedback. And if you want that classical shimmering effect, you want to set it to feedback. Now this reverb I would tag with words like lush, dreamy, ambient. It sounds absolutely great. You can create some really large spaces with really long tails, and it's got a soft tone to it. It doesn't sound metallic at all. I absolutely love this thing. It's just a very fun reverb to work with, and you do have a lot of filtering options in here. You know, when it comes to blurred out soundscapey sounds, this one absolutely aces it. However, I did notice that out of all of these Shimmer Reverbs, this one has the least loudest output. Least loudest? Well, the most quietest one? What am I trying to say? I had to amplify the output quite a bit. Now, it's not really a problem, it's just something I noticed. Alright, so apart from this thing sounding absolutely amazing, well, there is this one thing I want to highlight that I really like, and it has nothing to do with the sound and it's so gimmicky. And it's the fact that you can switch out colors. Yeah, I know, like I said, it's very gimmicky, but man, do I like this. Like with most of the plugins on this list, there's so much more that I can say about it. But I'm not going to do that because we're focusing on what these things sound like, and so we're gonna jump to the next one, which was released in February this year, 2020, and it is FAC Alteza. Yes, a lot of my viewers have been asking me what I think about FAC Alteza, and I get it, I completely get it. As soon as I tried it, I absolutely loved it. Now, if I would tag this with anything, I would tag it with lush, dreamy, atmospheric, soundscapey. It does huge spaces and long tails extremely well. Just one note though, don't forget to pull up the feedback to really get that shimmering effect. And I'd say that if you want something close to a classic shimmering effect, you want to pull that feedback up to between 60 and 80%. But it'll run away quite quickly, so be careful around the 80% area. Part of its strength is how it's able to create a kind of a blurry, chorus-like reverb tail, and that has to do with the modulation. I don't know exactly how Fred Anton Corvest, the developer of FAC Alteza, did it. It's just that he did it very, very right, and so this thing ends up not sounding metallic at all. I really enjoy that. Now I want to highlight something here because FAC Alteza can do ducking, and there are 3 other reverbs here that can do ducking, and that's Crystaline TB Reverb and BLEASS Shimmer. However, those 3 do this ducking based on an internal signal. Now, in the case of FAC Alteza, it does it differently because it actually supports AUv3 multi-IO. And so with this one, you can actually send any external signal into it. And personally, I prefer it when you do ducking this way. Okay, I'm about to round this up and move on to the next Shimmer reverb on the list. But before I do, I just want to point to this place where it says stage 1, 2, and 3. These are all pass delays, and they're a huge part of what makes up the reverberation unit. Either way, they can be changed. Experiment with this. Okay, so let's move on to the next plugin on our list, and that is BLEASS Shimmer. Now, this one was released back in June this year, 2020, and I gotta say, apart from the great sound, it's also got that BLEASS graphical user interface, straightforward and colorful. I'm loving that. BLEASS Shimmer sounds absolutely great, and to my ears, there's something extra added in there. There's kind of a singing overtone kind of thing to it. I can't exactly tell you why it does that or how it does that. It's just there, a slight overtone. Maybe it's the way the pitch shifter is buffering the sound. I don't know. Either way, it's just very pleasant to listen to. I'm starting to feel silly talking about what I would tag these reverb plugins with because I'm just saying the same words. And yeah, again, if I would tag BLEASS Shimmer with anything, I would tag it with atmospheric, ambient, lush, and huge. And when it comes to creating huge, massive spaces with long tails, this one gives you 30 seconds of reverb time. And that's plenty for those long and lush reverbs. Like I've already mentioned, a pitch shifter is a very, very huge integral part of a shimmering effect, like a shimmer reverb or a shimmer delay. And in the case of BLEASS Shimmer, you have 3 modes for the pitch shifter signal path. So when you're setting it to pre, you're pitch shifting the signal and then sending it into the reverb. And in post, you're pitch shifting the reverberated signal. And if you want that classical shimmering effect, you set it to feedback. I think I've said everything I wanted to say about BLEASS Shimmer, and you should be able to discern by now if you like the sound of this thing or not. Right, so we're moving on to the last Shimmer reverb on our list, which was released back in April this year, April? Wait a minute, that can't be right. It was released quite recently. Let me just check that out. Let's see here. How did I get it this wrong? This one was released back in August this year, 2020, and it is ShimerVerb. You know, Shimmer Reverbs has this effect of adding something that sounds kind of like an organ-like sounding sound. Oh, I made a mess of that sentence. In the case of ShimerVerb, it does this and it does it really, really well. However, I'd like to say that at higher pitches, I'm not too fond of the really sharp tones that gets introduced there, but when playing lower pitches, that organ-like tone really adds a lot to the overall sound. So if I would tag this one, I would tag this with lush, ambient, and you know, when it comes to longer tails, well, it's got that Eventide flair to it that we all love. I think everyone does, and if you don't, well, then maybe you haven't tried out the Eventide reverbs because, ooh, they're good. So is there something that this thing does differently than the other ones? Well, apart from its overall sound, well, it's got this touch strip that allows you to modulate stuff. But Jakob, that's not special. I mean, Crystaline has XY pads and so does that other plugin with the really long name. Yes, you are correct. And in this case, we don't even have an XY pad. But in the case of ShimerVerb, you can set this all up. You can set up the amount of movement and you can also set up the direction of the movement. This is really powerful. Now I know there's more I could say about each and every one of these plugins, but I'm gonna round the video off here. Which one did you like the most? That's what I want to know, and I'm sure that others reading the comment section down there would like to know that too. So why don't you drop a comment down below? And if you didn't like any of them, why don't you drop a comment about that? If you end up buying something, then tell us about that. So if you like this video, why not hit the thumbs up before you leave? And if you want to support this channel any further, then you can always share the link to this video. And if you want to support me in a financial way, you have the links here on the side. As always, all comments and ratings are very much appreciated. And as usual, I wish you a very productive week. Now go finger all of your stuff and have a lot of fun doing it. This is my sunflower plant. It's grown strong, you know? It's kind of late in the year, but I love these things. It was my partner who suggested we'd plant these. And over there, she made like a bokashi compost. Yeah, we're not letting anything go to waste.